Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of Magic Mondays. Today we're looking at a deck that I have titled Death Becomes Them, not Death Becomes the. And the commander is Zimone and Dina, or Dinah, I guess, maybe. So for 3 mana, you get a 3/4 human dryad combo creature. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Sacrifice another creature, draw a card, tap and sacrifice. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. If you control 8 or more lands, repeat this process once. So the idea is to exploit things that card draw helps, and to also have little throwaway disposable tokens and things that we can sacrifice to draw some stuff. Let's take a quick look at the details here. We have 47 lands, which is higher than normal, but that's because it's a deck that once it has the 8 lands out, you get to repeat that process with the commander. Average mana cost is 3.4 with 19 creatures and 33 non-creatures. So we got birds, we got dragons, we got humans, we got knights, we got all sorts of things. 3 instants, 4 sorceries, 13 artifacts, 10 enchantments, and 4 planeswalkers, along with, just for fun, a battle. So, wizard class, to have those draw 2 cards, and whenever you draw a card, make thing big. Some removal with Blood Chief's Thirst. Removal with Eaten Alive. Shambling Ghast, a great thing to sacrifice with the commander to either make that important treasure token or to -1/1 the enemy's Scoot Swarm or whatever. Fairy Mastermind gets bigger whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn. You draw a card. Actually, it does not get bigger, but it lets me draw. And I can force them to draw a card as well. Fairy Vandal is the one I was thinking of that gets bigger whenever I draw my second card on a turn, put a 1/1 counter on it. Ominous Seas, whenever you draw a card, put a Foreshadow counter on it, and then I can make some Kraken tokens. That Kraken is terrifying. Blood Artist, because ideally I have a lot of creatures dying to my commander, so this just helps a little bit. And here's one of our token generators, Jedar Ghoul Caller of Nephalia. So he'll make a zombie creature token every turn, which I can then sacrifice with my commander to draw an additional card, do 2 damage to them, etc., etc. A little bit of removal here with Sheoldred's Edict. Transmogrant's Crown, great for some card draw, especially if you throw it on those free 2/2 zombie tokens from Jadar. Lotus Kroba, just because it's an overpowered card that helps with mana. Roaring Earth, whenever a land enters the battlefield under control, put a 1/1 counter on target creature or vehicle you control. Ideally, with more lands, we've got a lot of lands entering the battlefield. Rushed Rebirth. This can be handy when, say I've got a better creature out that I don't particularly want to sacrifice. I can cast this and then sacrifice it with my commander. So this will choose target creature. When that creature dies this turn, search your library for a creature card with lesser mana value and put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So that can be very helpful. Some mana rocks, mana rocks, mana rocks. Here's our lone battle. Makes 2 1/1 blue Kraken creature tokens with trample, and then I can untap up to 4 target creatures at the beginning of my end step, which helps with the commander. And non-creature spells have Convoke. I use this in actually quite a few commander decks, so definitely not the first one we have seen, but it's nice because it makes a couple of throwaway Kraken tokens and will let me untap my commander and do that process again. It's not necessarily going to draw me a second card on my opponent's turn, but it will let me draw a card if I sacrifice something and whatever. There's circumstances where it works. Midnight Clock to basically do a Wheel of Fortune type roll if I get enough counters on it, plus it's a mana rock. Oracle the Alpha will conjure the power 9 into my library, which is just fun. Raven Form for some removal. Bastion of Remembrance, because I have things that die, including the 1/1 soldier token that Bastion of Remembrance creates. Midnight Reaper, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, it deals 1 damage to me and I draw a card. So more card draw. More removal. More mana rocks. Coast of Piracy, whenever a creature I control deals combat damage to an opponent, I may draw a card. Really nice card here, by the way. Vile Duplication, make a copy of target creature you control, except the token has flying and isn't legendary. Great to use on the commander. Meeting of Minds, convoke, draw 2 cards. Pretty simple. Lets me draw 2 cards, and then whenever I draw my second card each turn, target opponent loses 2 life, and I gain 2 life. And if I've already got 2 of my commanders out, then they lose 4 life, and I gain 4. Teferi's Ageless Insight, I can speak good, lets me draw additional cards other than the first one I draw each turn. Erebus Bleak-Hearted, to let me sacrifice creatures to either give them -2/1, or whenever another creature I control dies, I can pay 2 life to draw a card. So the 2 life that I would gain from drawing a second card, I can offset that and draw 2 cards instead if I need to. Gixian Puppeteer, whenever you draw your second card each turn, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life, just like the commander, except when he dies, I can return target creature with mana value 3 or less from my graveyard to the battlefield. Mostly it's there for the first ability. Pitiless Plunderer, whenever another creature I control dies, create a treasure token, very helpful. Simulacrum gets me a land, and when it dies I get to draw a card, also very helpful. I'm a big fan of Fairy Formation. It's a little pricey at 5 mana, but I can create 1/1 blue flying fairy creature tokens that I can sacrifice, and when I create them, I draw a card. So win-win. Jace, Unraveler of Secrets, +1 to scry 1, then draw a card, which is the main ability, but I can also return a target creature to owner's hand, or get that emblem whenever an opponent casts their first spell, counter it. Just a few left. Black Market, to get lots and lots of mana when things die. Drivnod, Carnage Dominus. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, it happens an additional time. So if I sacrifice my Solemn Simulacrum with my commander, I draw 2 cards from the Simulacrum, and I draw 2 cards from the commander. That's pretty cool. Junji, the Midnight Sky. When it dies, each opponent discards 2 cards and loses 2 life, or put target non-dragon creature from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control and lose 2 life. Very versatile card, especially if I sacrifice it myself. Lolth Spider Queen, whenever a creature you control dies, put a loyalty counter on there, and also I could do the 0 to draw a card and lose 1 life. So basically, if my commander's out and this is out, I can draw a card and my opponent loses 2 life and I gain 1 life, but I still get that card draw. Sir Conrad the Grim, whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from a battlefield, he deals 1 damage to each opponent. This works if the opponent's creatures die as well. Zendikar's Royal, whenever a land enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 elemental. A Great Vicious Cycle card, where I might play 2 lands in a turn because of the commander ability, and I make 2 elemental creature tokens, so then I can sacrifice them the next turn, rinse and repeat. Tamiyo, Completed Sage, mostly here for the fact that it's amazing. Tap up to 1 target artifact or creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. I can exile target non-land permanent card from my graveyard and make a copy. Or the best ability is the ultimate, as is usually the case with these commanders. Create Tamiyo's Notebook, a legendary colorless artifact token with spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, and tap to draw a card. Just super great in this deck. Tajiova, Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life and draw a card. Paradox Engine lets me untap all non-land permanents I control, which can include the commander if I want. It's just a good card. Kyrie, the Swirling Sky, Flying Ward 3. When it dies, return any number of target non-land permanents with total mana value 6 or less to their owner's hand, or mill 6 cards and return up to 2 instant and or sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand. More versatile dragon spirit business. Liliana, whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. Lots of card draw in this deck, can you tell? Great Henge, more card draw and gain life and +1/1 counters. It does all the things. And finally, Meathook Massacre. If I just want to put it out with 0 and not wipe the board, I can do that. And then whenever a creature I control dies, each opponent loses a life. And then we have a big assortment of lands. All the normal hits of dual lands, dual colored lands. I shouldn't say dual lands because that's old school Magic players will think of Tropical Island and stuff. But anyway, the multicolored lands. Besiju Who Endures, of course, because it's just a great removal card. And Westvale Abbey, which allows me to sacrifice 5 creatures and then make a 9/7 flying lifelink indestructible haste legendary demon. It's just kind of a fun bonus. Also Phyrexian Tower, which lets me sacrifice a creature to add 2 black, which can be useful in certain circumstances, and Castle Locthwain, which will let me draw a card and then lose life equal to the number of cards in my hand, which in some circumstances will completely offset, so it's just pay 3 to draw a card. So that's the deck. It's a really fun deck to play when it works well, which is, I think, generally the case with Commander in Magic. Like, it's fun when it works, but other times it can be kind of a nightmare. So this was just one of those things where I opened this Commander in a pack and thought, well, that's an interesting ability. How can I exploit it? So without further ado, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the games, the music that we get going for these games. And as always, please be kind to yourselves and each other. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Thumbs up. I appreciate you. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.